2023 was a fantastic year for JRPGs, and 2024 is looking to be no different. Now, while there is a ton of games announced, I will only be mentioning the ones that have already been confirmed to be coming out in 2024. So strap in and let's get started. Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. Now, I'm a pretty big Yakuza fan, even if I'm in the minority for thinking it's high time Kiryu retires as protagonist. Which is why I enjoyed the Judgment games, so much. And the most recent in the series, Yakuza Like a Dragon. Now, with the sequel just around the corner, landing on January 26th, the series continues its excursion into RPG territory by taking Ichiban to Hawaii, the first game in the series to leave Japan. I know a lot of Yakuza fans were a bit upset for the radical gameplay change of turning into a turn-based RPG, but it worked wonders for Like a Dragon, with each character choosing from a multitude of jobs like Final Fantasy V, which act as classes that grant them distinctive perks and play styles. Infinite Wealth will feature a wide range of minigames and side activities for players to enjoy, including returning fan favorites like karaoke, darts, mahjong, as well as new additions like Crazy Delivery. With this being confirmed as the longest game in the franchise, I'm hoping it does extremely well in not only giving Kiryu a proper send-off, and to keep this new JRPG franchise going strong for the future. Granblue Fantasy Relink. I have been hearing about this game since I think late 2016 or 2017, but it's finally coming out on February 1st, 2024. Based on the popular mobile gacha game with microtransactions, this action RPG uses real-time combat as its main selling point, and it kind of reminds me of Tales of Arise, with like a flashy attacks and combos. There's a lot of flexibility in the game's combat, since you can also switch between playable characters in your party of 4 during the single-player story. Seemingly, the only restriction is that the main character, Gran or Gita, male or female, must be included at all times. Relink's main story takes about 20 hours to complete, as well as an additional 20 to 40 hours for side quests. There's also, you could extend that with endgame content to over 100 hours. A majority of that can be spent doing multiplayer sessions with friends. Fortunately, you can also tackle this with AI-controlled party members in single player. From what I can tell, multiplayer is reminiscent of like Monster Hunter, as the main goal typically is to battle hordes of enemies or work together to take down a big monster. Calling all Persona fans, Persona 3 Reload is finally arriving on February 2nd, 2024. It tells the same beloved story but updates the game's mechanics, graphics, and even menus to better fit today's standards. It's also going to have a completely new voice cast, which may be hit or miss with some fans. Unfortunately for you Persona 3 portable fans, however, this remake will not include the additions that game received, like the new female protagonist, which I feel is a big missed opportunity. This isn't really a game I can sell you on. If you like Persona, then you've most definitely already played the original or have heard how amazing it is. Either way, this is a must-have for any JRPG fan, let alone any Persona fan.
Wow, just look at it all. It's so green. Even after everything we've done to it, it's still going strong.
Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is hands down not only my most anticipated JRPG of 2024, but my most anticipated game of 2024, period. And I think most people agree, considering it also won the trophy for it at the Game Awards. Rebirth continues the story of Final Fantasy VII Remake, which unexpectedly changed the plotline of the original game, making it more of a sequel to Advent Children than an actual one-to-one remake. The major change for this sequel, however, will be the new open world, adding more exploration side quests and mini-games. This is probably the one game I don't gotta really hype you up on, unless we are one of the fans who hated the remake, because this trilogy, of games is not gonna be faithfully a one-to-one to the original. But I'm all for a change. I want to be surprised with these next two games, just like I was for the remake. And we're all going to get that chance come this February when it launches for PS5 on February 29th.
But why come back now? After 5 years, doing who knows what.
Next up, we have Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes. After a very successful crowdfunding campaign, Eiyuden is set to release on April 23rd. I have one question for you all. Do you like Suikoden? Well, this game brings back some of the gameplay mechanics as some of the original staff are behind this game, but are changing it up enough for modern audiences. It also mixes some pretty 2D polygon art with, vibrant 3D surroundings, similar to the Octopath Traveler series, like the Live Alive remake and the most recent Star Ocean The Second Story are, and it looks amazing. If you want to get a glimpse of what this game is gonna be like, then check out its prequel, Eiyuden Chronicle Rising, which is out on all platforms right now.
And a lifetime can pass in the blink of an eye, for anyone embracing its bitter end.
Neo developer Team Ninja is back with Rise of the Ronin, scheduled for release on March 22nd. If you've already played previous Team Ninja games like Neo 1 and 2 and the recent Wolong, then this would look very familiar to you. But according to Team Ninja, this is their biggest game yet. Think Ghost of Tsushima and Neo in an Ubisoft-like open-world environment. The game takes place during the final moments of the Tokugawa shogunate, the military government established during the Edo period that kept the country in its feudal state, which was largely marked by stagnation and oppression. Our protagonist, obviously a ronin, is somehow linked to many of the era's icons and will make choices that'll either align with or rebel against those characters and their allegiances. From swords to guns, matchlock rifles, there's an assortment of wide range of gear in the game, including a grappling hook and a hang glider for stealth takedowns and quick traversal. And, like a game, it looks very similar to Ghost of Tsushima. There's also a horse you can ride. This might be the perfect game to hold you over until Ghost 2 is finally announced. Definitely took me by surprise at the Game Awards, Visions of Mana. The first mainline Mana game in over 15 years, and it's coming sometime in 2024. No exact date given, sadly, but we don't know much except from the trailer and a blurb on the new website. Embark on a new adventure with Val, the newly appointed Soul Guard, as he sets off on a journey across the world to accompany his friend on her pilgrimage to the Tree of Mana. Experience action-packed gameplay and explore a vibrant, semi-open 3D field, encountering fearsome foes and unlikely allies along the way. Sounds pretty familiar, huh? Here's hoping we don't gotta wait too long in 2024 for this game to finally drop. Legend of Legacy HD Remastered, a game I played on my 3DS when it released way back in 2015, and it's being remastered for modern consoles coming in March 22nd. Now, if you like JRPGs for their story, then this one may be a bit disappointing to you, as it's very much like a saga game kind of thing, so it focuses on gameplay above all else. It's about how you create strategies and how you factor the randomness into your playstyle. You could grind a lot, or you could sit down, think to yourself, which character is the best one, which weapon is the best, what is the rate of learning of this character, and what weapon suits best. Should I fight smaller enemies, or do I try my luck against a stronger one that will allow me to learn skills more easily? This is probably the game I'm least excited for next year, but if you're willing to overlook the lack of story and overcome its considerable challenge, then this game might be worth checking out. Avowed, releasing hopefully sometime in 2024, is essentially Skyrim if made by Obsidian. Sounds too good to be true, and it might be until we see more of it. We've gotten snippets here and there, but we know it takes place in the same world as Pillars of Eternity, but instead of a turn-based, real-time hybrid where you control a party, you're given control over one character, obviously from a first-person's perspective, just like Skyrim. Obsidian has experience in this genre, with like Outer Worlds, and who could forget heavy hitter, Fallout New Vegas. But this is a first for them in this genre for this type of game, first person and stuff, to step into, fantasy. But if there's any developer that can get the job done, it's definitely Obsidian. Dragon's Dogma 2, the original game that sadly didn't get enough love at time of release, but Dragon's Dogma was such a unique RPG. Specifically, the combat was one of a kind, combining the monster climbing mechanics of Shadow of the Colossus with melee combat and a really fun magic system that I still think hasn't been topped in the genre. And Dragon's Dogma 2 looks to capitalize and expand on what worked in the sequel. There will be more vocations to choose from, expansions on the quirky but entertaining pawn system that let you travel with a host of, often player-made companions, and a more concrete focus on the story this time. With a world 4 times bigger than the first game, this is looking to be one of the best RPGs of next year, arriving on March 22nd, 2024.
When you get a decent weapon, come back and go to the old camp together.
Gothic Remake, the granddaddy of open-world fantasy games, is getting a remake over 20 years later, releasing sometime in the second half of 2024. While Morrowind does it better, Gothic did it first. The story of the original revolved around a war of humans and orcs, and the player character who happens to be the chosen, of the god Enos. Now, Gothic's combat is best compared to Dark Souls, in my opinion. It's about timing, patterns, and picking battles. Obviously, the original Gothic doesn't hold up to today's standards, but with this remake on the way, this has a chance to blow up for THQ Nordic and could potentially be a game Elden Ring players might enjoy until that game's expansion finally comes out. Metaphor ReFantazio. I honestly think these titles probably sound cooler in Japanese, because they always sound so weird in English, but we have another RPG coming out of Atlas, and like Obsidian, are stepping into the fantasy RPG. It looks like a mix between Final Fantasy and Persona, which honestly sounds like it could be the greatest game of all time from that descriptor. In terms of gameplay, it incorporates an action-based combat system that also implements turn-based combat. The visuals have that great Persona or Shin Megami Tensei look, and the voice acting sounds top-notch. This feels like it could be Atlas's biggest game since Persona 5, and hopefully releasing sometime in 2024. Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door Remaster. Hopefully, honestly, I shouldn't even have to explain how amazing this game is to RPG or JRPG fans. It's the best Paper Mario game hands down, and honestly one of the best Mario games to ever release. Originally released on the GameCube in 2004 as the sequel to the original Paper Mario on the N64, it improved upon everything that game did. A great story and atmosphere that make you feel like you're in a storybook without relying on the incredibly excessive paper aesthetic that the newer games did. Excellent partners, the uniqueness, personalities, abilities, the designs, beautiful and inspired levels and regions that make you want to explore every corner. You got Rogueport, Glitzville, Twilight Town, so on and so on. The writing is charming and witty. The bosses and dungeons are compelling, creative, and well-designed. A battle system and leveling system that only built upon the first game, which was already incredible. Releasing sometime in 2024 for the Nintendo Switch, and I absolutely cannot wait for it. The Legend of Heroes Trails Through Daybreak. I know trying to start the Trails series can be intimidating for newcomers, as there are a lot of games on many different platforms, spanning many different arcs. This game in particular takes place the furthest in the timeline if you don't count its direct sequel. It's the start of a brand new arc, several years after the Sky arc, and 2 years after the Cold Steel and Crossbell arcs, which concluded with Reverie. Now, don't worry, as this is not only a fantastic game on its own merits, but it's probably the best starting point aside from the original Sky game. Aside from a couple of references here and there, it's also pretty well divorced from the main story of the 10 games preceding it. The game's combat system is divided into 2 modes: real-time action battles, similar to Falcom's, Yeast series, and traditional turn-based combat featured in the series past. The game encourages the player, to use both modes, which can be freely switched between outside of boss fights, which are exclusively turn-based. As a first for the series, this game also features an alignment system based on law, chaos, and a mix of the two. While the system does not affect the main story or ending, it unlocks options that allow the player to ally with certain factions at a particular point in the game, triggering unique events and dialogues. This is a must for any Trails fan and any fan wanting to break into the story. You can't do worse than here, starting with its release in mid-2024.
'Tis a grievous tale which speaks of Fevrith, one of stolen destiny, stolen minds, and stolen nations.
Unicorn Overlord, releasing on March 8th, 2024. Now, don't let the weird name distract you, as Vanillaware always, names their games kind of uniquely. Unicorn Overlord combines the timeless tactical RPG genre with overworld exploration and innovative battle system for a unique, fantasy experience in the iconic Vanillaware style. Exploration is where most of this game is. That's where you're going to be doing a lot of your stuff, and you can discover new quests and, more as you explore. You gain new allies and make game-changing decisions throughout, determining who lives or dies and the path of the story. With over 60 characters to recruit, this is looking like a nice crossover between Fire Emblem and Final Fantasy Tactics.
I'm happy to see you accepted my invitation.
Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2. Now, the original Bloodlines is still one of the best RPGs of all time, even 20 years later. So it's no wonder the long-awaited sequel has been hit with delay after delay after delay. The game will place you in a near-future version of Seattle, where a vampire war is taking place. Your choices, plots, and schemes will determine the balance of power and what becomes of the city and its people. If you want to know what this game can potentially end up being like, I encourage all of you to experience the original in all its splendor. Now, that's not all the JRPGs we know of or have heard about, like Dragon's Dogma 2, Blue Protocol, and probably a few others I'm missing, but they don't have any definitive dates set in stone and may even miss 2024 altogether. But even so, we have a ton of incredible JRPGs coming next year,